What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another deck profile here on TCG University for the card game UniVersus. My name's Tam, and today I'm going to be showing you my Inferno 2-dot deck for our ultra rare build around Campus Championship, where I focused on Test Your Might as the ultra that I was playing. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so if you have not seen one of my deck profiles, basically the way that this works, as opposed to just reading off the cards verbatim, I'm going to be explaining more of what the deck wants to do and the cool combos inside of the deck as opposed to what the cards do. And so with that, let's go ahead and get rocking. So a little backstory for the deck. We got a challenge on Patreon, or we made the theme of this campus championship the ultra rare build around. So the way that the deck works is you can only play one ultra rare or one set of ultra rares, and you had to build your deck around that ultra rare. And so the ultra rare I picked was Test Your Might. I saw Test Your Might before I saw Inferno, and I was like, I want to build a deck that will be able to mill the top 15 cards of my opponent's deck. And I was like, what character can give the most consistent damage boosts? And then I saw Inferno and went, hey, +5 on everything seems pretty good. I just got to start them off fairly decent stats, and then the +5 or +6 will get me there. And so with the way that the deck works, basically all I want to do is just like play a big attack, give it a bunch of damage, and then draw 3 extra cards. And if I draw another Test Your Might, I'll draw another 3 extra cards, and want to just burst into that way. And then taking the top 15 cards and putting it into my opponent's discard pile is fine, but it's not. It was the focus of the deck, but it ended up not being how the deck wanted to play. So with that, let's go ahead and just jump into the profile. So the first card I actually want to talk about is Test Your Might, because it's the build around card. As I said before, I wanted to take and drop the top 15. I wanted to mill you out with this card. Well, that's not what ended up happening. What ended up happening was Test Your Might was just a free draw 3 that just existed inside of my deck. And even if it was just a draw 2, which draw 2 is way more consistent than draw 3, but holding out for the draw 3 meant that on one turn, I was an 8-hander for that turn. I played an attack, I drew 3 extra cards, so I essentially just +1. I milled you 15 options that you no longer got to have, and then continued the rest of my turn. So being a 35 health character with a bunch of additional cards in my hands meant that I actually got to block like I was a 6 or a 7-hander, which meant that I got to live a little further. And so the more of these that I got to play, the more actually defensive I got to play. And then eventually I would just kill you because all of my attacks are very, very thick. Speaking of attacks, let's go ahead and just jump down. I went ahead and just order these, and just honestly in the damage stat. The higher the damage, the better. And so we're playing 4 Overhead Heel Crush. It's just a 10 damage attack, and it's the perfect pairing with Test Your Might. Inferno gets to give it +5 extra damage, and then Test Your Might just auto gets to trigger for the 15. So Overhead Heel Crush plus Test Your Might said draw 3. It is a 6 diff, so I have to make sure that I don't check bad. Luckily, we're not playing any risky checks in this deck, and it's just a 5 high for 15 in Inferno, which is like, you know, half of every character's life. And so you had to deal with one, if not both, if not 3 of these that came at you in a turn. We'll talk about that. Next card we're talking about is Vicious Madness. This card is like Inferno's bread and butter. It just says it pay 2 of my 35 vitality. It can't be partial blocked. Give it an extra 5 damage. And then that's enough to draw 2 cards and a couple other cards comboed in order to let me draw the full 3 off of Vicious Madness. It was just as good as Heel Crush whenever it needed it with the 1 left difficulty. Very much probably the best attack inside of the deck. Up next, we're playing 4 Gorefest. This card was a little suboptimal inside of this build. I wanted it to get way bigger than I wanted to get bigger than I thought it would, but the way that you play this card is, honestly, this thing just gets really fast. It gets a 1 speed for every 4 foundations, and every time that I play an attack, I'm removing a foundation, and every time that they play an attack, I'm removing a foundation. And so every 2 attacks that get played get +1 speed on the Gorefest. There was at one point where whenever I used Inferno's first form, he made me pick up 4 Gorefest, and I killed him because of the speed of because of the speed and him having to tap out additional resources for the speed. It would only got +2 speed, only have 8 foundations removed, but it was just enough to be 8 high for, you know, amazingly lethal with Inferno. Up next, we're playing 4 Guardian's Judgment. The reason we're playing this is because I didn't really have a momentum out. This got 7 damage all by itself because of the +1, and then Inferno gives it, and then it just clears itself and grabs another copy. And so it gets to just replenish my hand. It was the only momentum out, and so smacking them with a Gorefest on turn 1, or even better, smacking them with a Guardian's Judgment on turn 1, because they were afraid of the next card that I was going to play. I did just draw 3 cards, or smacking them with this, and then it going to my momentum, and then playing another one, discarding the momentum, and then picking this one back up, remove it from the game, as well as it removes itself from the game, so it does kind of combo with Gorefest, just ever so slightly. It was fine, not necessary. I think I'd rather play a different ultra rare. And then one of the best cards, a bit of a sleeper hit, from this past meta was Woodman's Leaf Shield. After you block with it, all of my opponent's attacks get -2 damage to stretch out that 35. And as I said, the point of the ultra rare was supposed to be aggressive, but it ended up being hyper defensive. And so being able to just draw into extra copies of these, super good. I will say it's very important as Inferno to remove these so that whenever you do first form, you get rid of them, because they're not very good on our turn. They're only good for the block. Onto the assets and actions. So the action-wise, we're only playing the one, Test Your Might. It's the only action that we need, and it was just draw 3 cards. I mean, that's what more could you ask for inside of a 5-hander. And so I want to talk about the assets. We're playing double Omega Sword and Owl Shield. This is the main card we were looking for when it came to being defensive. I think this card is actually not fair when it comes to blocking. There were turns where I would be 4 cards deep into my card pool, having been completely and totally committed out, and still blocking things with Woodman's Leaf Shield and other good block cards, just because my blocks don't count towards progressive difficulty. Plus, it's really solid. It was the thing that pushed things like Vicious Madness over the edge in order to get that extra damage through. So giving it a 3 damage off of Vicious Madness, put it on the cusp for the 5 damage for the Test Your Might to be live. And so it was not only hyper defensive, but just aggressive enough in order to be relevant inside of the deck. We're playing 4 Omega Sword and Elk Shields. Honestly, the reason we're playing 4 is because it's the only 6 in our deck, and sometimes maybe they -1 damage, and I needed the +5. Well, luckily I've got a 6, as well as if I get to block things. These 2 cards together under 2 of their symbols are just so unfair. Auto block whatever you want. If you block, only take 1 damage. Just gross. Absolutely disgusting. On to the foundations, and like I said at the top, I'm not reading off foundations. I'm kind of just putting them into the camps of what they do. So the first one is the aggressive kill you foundations. We're playing 4 massive size. It's just honestly another copy of Inferno. Inferno says remove a card for +5 damage. This says commit a card for +5 damage. And then sometimes it gets -2 difficulty. We did have Goro inside of this tournament, and so there was some times where they did start the game with more life than I did. We're playing 4 Servant of Ares. This card is more relevant in flipping their cool stuff as opposed to giving the +4 damage. But the +4 damage did come in handy whenever I didn't have something like Owl Shield and to get that little extra pump. We're playing 4 Marshall Banana. I expected my attacks to be removed way more often than they were. This card was a dead card 100% of the time. You should definitely take it out, but this is the list that I played for the tournament. Just replace this with any other good defensive card, and I think the deck will work fine for you. We're playing 4 Second Saintly Beast. All of this damage doesn't mean squat if it gets full blocked, and so having a couple Second Saintly Beast is good enough in order to plus the 2 speed, plus 4 speed if you got both, in order to push through the 15+ damage, as well as making sure that we do get the block stuff. Not counting towards progressive is fine and dandy, but making the -2 speed, all their attacks are probably going to be fast too, so this is just kind of a bit of a safety net. Onto the consistency cards. This is my favorite card inside of this deck, actually. We're playing 4 Puppet of the Cursed Sword. This card is very slept on for good reason, honestly. It should probably maybe be a 1 of in most decks, but the reason I wanted to play this at a 4 of is if you look back at my attack lineup, every single attack that I'm playing, even the bad ones, are all 5 difficulties, right? Every single one of these attacks are 5s or 6s, and so playing big strings of them like Inferno wants to do, he wants to pick up a grip of these attacks. That's his entire first form. I need to have the foundation count to do so, and as a 5-hand size character, it's tough to do. And so there's sometimes where I would just pop off and build 2 or 3 of these, and my opponent would play 1 poke attack, and then I'd build 3 additional foundations, and then ready them all up on my turn, and then play a ton of attacks. It was super relevant. I never wanted them to flip to cancel. This was honestly like a sleeper hit. If people were just flipping to cancel this, I would not have won in many of the games that I won. Up next, we're playing some defense. We're playing Hellfire of Despair. This can be a consistency a consistency thing for Inferno's first form, but the main thing about this is the response flip after an attack is played. Its damage cannot be modified. This card's also really good if you happen to have the Hellfire. Is that what it's called? The Inferno card on board. Gorefest, excuse me. If you have Gorefest on live and on board, this thing might just blow them out depending on how late you are into the game. But like it was mainly there so that they didn't smack me real hard. Missile launcher is real scary. In the same vein, defensive-wise, we're playing 4 Toughest Punk in junior high school. I got to keep this vitality up as high as I can so I can make sure I can build more foundations and eventually combo off and kill you. And so just, if I was going to block, this card combos really, really well with Woodman's Leaf Shield. Up next, we're playing 4 Energy Absorption for the same reason Toughest Punk and the other one are there. After I take damage after an unblocked attack, I'm just going to gain one of that vitality back. Going back up to 35 is very much the goal. We're playing 1 Refusing to Let Go as our last defensive card. Just being able to commit one of their big damage attacks and put it back to print -0 means that I don't necessarily have to block and use my cool Owl and Elk shields. And so just commit to reset something is very, very solid. On the Disruption, we're playing double Dark Side of Karma. This just says if they played an ability, stop it. 99% of the stuff in here can and should be stopped by Dark Side of Karma, so why wouldn't I want to play that on my turn? Maybe they're playing something like as strong as my Test Your Might to draw the 3. This card says no to that. We're playing double Sense of Morals. Easy way to pop off on a 5-hand size character is resource denials, right? And so being able to commit their things, stunning them completely out, and then just smacking them is very good. And double Sense of Morals just says that I get to make sure I keep my things ready in order to continue to block, as well as it feeds my discard pile. This is now, I guess technically 3 cards I get to see because Inferno removes 1 every attack in order to find a first form pickup. And then my last card we're playing is 4 Pursuing a Vendetta when it comes to Disruption. I need to make sure that I can keep my cards on the table. I am a 5-hand size character, and one of the easiest ways to beat a 5-hand size, as I said with Sense of Morals, is just resource denial. I want to make sure that I have the things. I mean, the reason I put the cards in the deck is they're good, right? And if you constantly get rid of them, I need to make sure that I can get them back. And so flipping this and grabbing in a Pursuing or grabbing in Sense of Morals or grabbing in something that I can play on your turn, on my next turn, might be the thing that wins me the game, especially keeping up on that foundation count. All right, everybody, thank you very much for watching the profile. If you like it, make sure you check out the matches that Inferno played in here on a playlist on youtube.com/TCG University, as well as all the other decks that were played, as well as the other profiles. And join us live on twitch.tv/TCG University every Tuesday at 6 o'clock where we play these matches live. We'd love to interact with you in the chat and get your opinions and thoughts and be there and see the cool stuff as it happens. And then lastly, join us on patreon.com/TCG University in order to chat with us, get access to a Patreon, get access to all these deck lists an entire week early as we learn and discover and figure out what the next campus championship will be, as well as talk in our Discord where we can talk about Inferno all day long. I would love to have some interaction with you guys. So from all of us here at TCGU, thank you very much for watching the video and stay learned.